I do want to take a moment just to say thank you to all those who truly minister. To put this on for almost 15 years we've been doing this, and it's all done by people whose hearts have been turned. We call this a ministry because there's a great deal of ministry that's done. So I know I'm going to forget people, but John and Foster and Ed and those that are out front registering, Pete, there are too many to mention. I just want to say thank you on behalf of Stonebriar. People have asked me through the years, they don't much anymore, why do you do this? This isn't a quote-unquote church-sponsored ministry. It's simply the right thing to do. It's simply the right thing to do. We have space. We have people that we care about. So to me, it's a no-brainer, and I'm grateful for the work that they do. So I have always given just a few minutes, and again, it's always dangerous to give a pastor a microphone, but there is a clock back there, and I will adhere to that. Just a few words, and then I just ask a blessing over the time that you have here. I'm 66 years old, and I realized that I don't have any hobbies, really none. My hobbies are my family, my kids, my friends, and work. But it's probably a good idea to at this point in my life to figure out maybe some other things that I'd like to do. I'm not ready to retire, but you begin to think about these things now. And so I'm dabbling in trying to understand a little bit astronomy. Now, not astrology. Please know that a pastor's not interested in reading the astrological signs, but it's astronomy. It's fascinating. And so I've found out, probably all aware of it, but around 1990, we launched a telescope called the Hubble telescope. And the Hubble was able to take pictures of unknown galaxies, and they're absolutely fascinating pictures. It is immense at the reach that this telescope is able to take pictures. And for the time that the Hubble was up there taking pictures, the astrophysicists have been able to map with some degree of predictability what is out there. And there's great comfort in knowing that there is something bigger than what we have here and the enormity of what space was, but they've figured it out that they kind of have an idea. Then around 2020, their minds were blown because they launched the JWT, the James Webb Telescope, and it's 6 times more powerful than the Hubble. And if you haven't gone on the internet to see the pictures that this Webb telescope is able to take of the enormity, beyond the enormity of what the Hubble did, to the point where astrophysicists are going, I don't know. And that's a humbling spot for a scientist. I don't know. The immensity and the enormity is beyond words. It's beyond their calculations. And here's the point. Most of us have been in environments where we've needed something bigger than ourselves to place the things that happen in our lives. And it is wonderful that the God of the Bible is that place for many. But the concept remains that there is something natural that we look to something bigger to make sense of things that don't make sense. And we all have probably gotten comfortable with that. And then events come along that you need an even bigger God. that you are no place to put this. You thought you understood God. You thought you understand his sovereignty. You thought you understood, yeah, he's big, he's bigger. And then an event comes in your life and you go, you got to even be bigger, God, because I got no clue. Some of you are sitting in that spot right now, where you need a Webb telescope that shows that there's even something bigger than what you thought was there. And that's the God of our Bible. I don't know where you are spiritually, and it's okay. But the point is, you may be sitting there and you thought you understood life, you thought you understood God, and something's come in, and man, you need it bigger. The good thing is I believe it is bigger. That what we think we know and we've figured out and we feel comfortable with, something comes along that is authored by the hand of God, and recognize, I need something bigger to place this. I don't get it. Makes sense. And I'm reminded, and then I'll pass the mic over, of a scripture that I think has comforted me in times when events in my life have challenged me to my understanding of what God is. I needed him bigger. I needed like a Webb telescope to show me that what I thought I understood, I am blown away because it's even bigger. And this is what I pray for you. It says, then Christ will make his home in your hearts as you trust in him. Your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should know, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to understand fully, but then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and the power that comes from God. Now all glory to God, who is able, through his mighty power at work within us, to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. And some of you are there. You need to know how wide, how long, how deep. You need a power that is bigger than what you're dealing with. You need to have a God that cares enough about you to be right where you are. And it's more than what you possibly could think. So again, I'm not sure where you are spiritually. So my point here to convert anyone, it's just to speak the truth that I believe and the realities of life that I've learned by being a pastor and a therapist for decades. So I pray that you lean into that God that is bigger than you ever thought, and that you actually feel how wide, how long, and how deep is his love for you. Father God, bless this time. May your Holy Spirit be present. Lord, this is sacred time, not because of what we say or what we do, it's because you are present. So Lord, wherever the souls that have gathered here are, speak to them right where they're at. Remind them that you are bigger than their circumstances, and that's a hard thing. We humans define our life by the circumstances we have. Lord, move in such a way where we're able to move ourselves beyond the circumstances and see who you are in a world that, quite frankly, really doesn't understand you. But Lord, you are that big, that the image we thought we understood, I want you to show us that it's even bigger, unfathomable, more than we can understand, as your word says. And may they know how deep and how wide and how high your love is for them. Let this morning be that for them and all who speak. It's in your great name I pray. Amen. Guys, thanks for letting me take a minute. Starting your morning off. It'll be a good morning for you.
All right. Guys, this dude right here, we got it going on. He's the Hubble telescope when it comes to networking and talent acquisition. I'm a recruiter. He's talent acquisition. So, without further ado, what's your name?
Kurt, here we go.
VandeMotter. Not VandeMotter, but VandeMotter, right?
Hello, Motter. Hello, Potter.
Hello,
Welcome
Mama.
to Camp Granada. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Okay. So the very first thing I'm doing is I'm coming down, okay, because I would rather be with you guys down here where the action happens, and those lights are pretty intense, so I can see you. Does that work? Okay. Yeah. So I saw the hands on the number of people that have been, this is the first time they've been here.
Yeah.
How many of you have heard me speak before? Is there anybody? One, couple, two, three, four. Okay, good. Well, you came back, so that must mean something good, right?
I had to.
So I think the biggest key today is that I'm here for you, okay? And I mean that 100%. The next hour is about you. It's not about me. And I mean that in the most sincere way. I've got a job. You're all looking for something to do next, and you're looking for a job. And so if I can help reduce that anxiety, I had breakfast with a friend of mine this morning, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I told him, and he said, "Wow, you're probably pretty good at that." And that the reason I'm good at it is because we've all been in your shoes before, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train, okay? If there are more people here today than normal, it's because we're in a down market right now, y'all, okay? I don't need to turn on the TV to listen to ABC tell me that, or CNN, or see any of the newscasters. We're in a down market. There's no question about it. And why do I say that? I say that because I'm a retained search executive. So what does that mean? Let's just go through a little bit of education first. In the search world, or in hiring and recruiting, there's three kinds of recruiters, okay? There's internal recruiters. These are the recruiters that work for the companies that you may be getting calls from or emails from. These are people that work for companies like AT&T, big companies, typically. Your smaller organizations, some of you got placed recently, your smaller organizations may not have an internal recruiter, so HR might be that person. But that's the difference, internal recruiters. So then sometimes companies get to a point where they've got a job that they need to fill, and they can't do it themselves. Either it's because they want to look nationally, or it's too big a job. And so they go outside. They've got two options when they go outside. They can hire a contingent firm. A contingent firm is one that doesn't get paid any money up front, okay? And there's no exclusivity, so they can be 4 or 5 search firms working on that one role. And nobody gets paid until they place the candidate. So they may have an agreement with the company that they get a percentage of the salary or a percentage of the compensation, but they don't get paid unless they bring the candidate, okay? I did that work when I first started the executive search business about 16 years ago. I did one of those for about a day and a half, and I pledged that I'd never do contingent work again because I'd rather lose money on the golf course than to work for free. And it's true. So the retained search is the third kind of search firm, and that's what I do. I get a retainer up front, so a company writes me a check for a bunch of money, and then I'm exclusive. I'm the only search guy working on the job, and then I get a check at the end of the search, okay, for placing that person, and that's based on a percentage of the salary as well. So those are the three kinds of recruiters. Why is it important that you know that? Because you should know when you're talking to a recruiter what kind of recruiter they are. Not good, bad, or ugly, but are they a contingent or are they a retained? The difference is that we work at different paces, we work a little bit differently, but you need to know that. And so don't hesitate to ask somebody when they call you or you're in a conversation, I'm sorry, are you an internal recruiter, or are you an external recruiter, are you retained, or are you contingent? It's good to know that, okay? Sometimes the contingent people, not always, but sometimes they have in the past used your resumes to go shop business, okay? I don't do any selling. This is my selling, is talking to you today and doing the stuff that I do on LinkedIn and so forth. Forbes magazine does an annual survey of the top search firms in the world or in the country, and they do my advertising for me because 6 or 7 years ago, I'm single shingle. I don't have a team like Korn Ferry or Stanton Chase or any of those people. I don't have offices other than in Dallas, Texas, and my office is in my home. And Forbes nominated me as the 6th best search firm in the United States. And I've stayed on that list for the last 7 years, this year number 11, number 1 in Texas. So companies find me, I don't go finding them. Some contingent firms, though, will use your resume because you've got a good resume, and they'll send it out to 200 companies that they'd like to work for and say, Casey is a candidate that, and they may not even give you the name. This is a candidate that we represent, and if you are hiring people like Casey, we should talk. And the company might call them back and say, yeah, I'll enter into a contingent agreement with you. I'd like to see that resume, or I'd like to talk to that candidate, and I'd like to talk to a few more like it, okay? I don't do that kind of work, but just know that that sometimes happens. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, but just know it, okay? So we're a down market, but that doesn't mean that companies aren't still hiring, right? We should have great confidence and applaud, again, the people that got placed. That's huge, okay? So one of the things candidates often ask me is during the holidays, they say, I'm going to quit looking for a job for during the December period because nobody hires during that time period. Well, that's wrong, because I write a lot of offer letters during the holidays because companies want that person to be in place right after the first of the year. Well, we're in a similar situation, okay? We're in an election year and there's a lot of uncertainty. If you can't feel it, turn on the news. There's a lot of uncertainty in this country right now. And I'm not going to take a position, but I'm going to encourage you all to make sure you go vote, and make sure you grab a friend and a neighbor and another friend, and make sure everybody goes and votes. I don't care who you vote for, but just vote, because there are consequences based on this election. After we get through this election, just like every other year we have an election, we'll all take a deep breath, we'll figure out what the plan is going to be, and we're going to adjust, and we're going to move on, and it'll all be good again, okay? This is not henny penny, the sky is falling, okay? It's just one day out of the year. So I used to tell my mother when I couldn't be with her at Christmas, Mom, it's just one day. It's just one day. We can get through just one day, okay? But companies are still hiring. And what can you do to position yourself so that you're better fit to take that next role, to take that next interview, okay? What are some of the challenges that you are all facing today? Let me not just tell you about what I do and what I've done, but what are some of the challenges that you're facing today? Anybody got anything they want to? Ma'am. Yep.
Very excited. Times are available to meet.
Yep.
And I send them my resume, times to meet, that within that business day.
Yep.
Ghost.
Silent.
And I'll even follow up.
Yep.
And my rule is follow up twice, and then, that's my answer.
Okay, so that's a great question, because that's, when we're going to look for a job, we become salespeople, right? You might be an engineer, or you might be an HR person, or you might be a marketing person, or you might be, an IT person. But the bottom line is, when you go to get a job, you are selling. And if you're not a salesperson, I don't even know you. I'm not suggesting that you're not a salesperson, that you're not doing the right thing there. But what I encourage you to do is, when you're selling, is I do want an answer, and you respectively reached out to me, and I want to put closure to this conversation. So you're doing the right thing, but I wouldn't stop there. I might keep that list going, and I might just reach out to those people every week, just to say, hey, I'm still on the bench. Love to talk to you. You had an interest in something in my resume, a month ago. What went wrong? Did the position get on hold? Be respectful for what's going on right now and the people. But there is nothing wrong, because in sales, when do I quit calling on you, Christopher? When you tell me to stop calling, right? That's when I take you off my call list, is when you say, don't call me anymore, okay? Now, if you're not a salesperson and that feels really uncomfortable to you, okay, I get it. I've seen so many people here today that have raised their hands to say, I'm here to help, I'm here to help, I'm here to help. Raise your hand and say, I need to learn how to sell. Because you're in college right now when the professor handed you that big pen and said, sell me the big pen. Okay? And you said, it feels good in my hand, it's sleek, it's really nice, I like the colors of it. I'd give it to somebody as a gift. This is a really nice big pen. Well, you are the big pen now. You are the big pen. So you have to know what your attributes are and what your strengths are, and how you can help a company solve the problems. Okay? Let's start right there. I think this is the most interesting thing when companies come to me and they're interviewing me to hire and try to fill a job. You know, one of the things they always want to know is, what's your Rolodex? Well, I've got thousands of people that follow me and all this other nonsense, but that's not you're not hiring me for who I know, because you've got a job that you want to fill and you need to fill, and you're asking me to go look at the whole landscape. You don't want me to just look at this little pie, even though I might have 10,000 contacts. There's a million people that we might want to talk to. So I want to look at everybody. I don't have a database of my favorite HR people, my favorite salespeople, my favorite marketing people, because I have to help this company solve a problem. What is the problem that they're trying to solve? Why are they making this hire? What do they want that person to do? What do you want this executive to accomplish in the first 6 months, the first year? When I come back to you and we review that person's first year assessment and their review, what is going to be on there that I need to know now? What do you want them to do for your company? Okay? So I come to you as a candidate, and that's how I position it, is that I am looking for a candidate that's got this experience and has solved these problems. Have you ever done that in your career? You ought to be doing the exact same thing opposite. You ought to be asking the companies that you're talking to and that are calling you, what is it that you're trying to solve? What is it the problem that you're trying to solve? What do you want this executive to do? Not me. Don't take it personal. What do you want this executive that gets this job? What do you want them to be able to solve in the first year? Because I need to know that, because I hopefully have got some experience and I can tell you some stories, okay? And that's where we want to get to the point of, is where we're telling stories about what we've done, what we have accomplished, how we've done it, and who we've done it with. This takes us into this whole behavioral interviewing conversation. Everybody familiar with behavioral interviewing? And it's okay if you don't, okay? There is no stupid question in this room today. Can I tell you that? There is no stupid question, because what you heard earlier was true. I don't have all the answers, but if I don't have the answer, I'll go get it, okay? I'll go find it for you. Behavioral interviewing is something that HR people, search people get trained on, and it's to ask questions that get you to talk about your past, okay? So instead of saying, tell me what your strengths are, I might say, could you tell me a time that you had to solve a problem working with a diverse group of people, and there were people on the team that didn't agree with your ways of doing things, but you had to get the project done because the president was watching that project. Can you tell me a time? And candidates go in and they tell me, yeah, this is exactly what I did. And what you want to do, what we're trying to get you to do, is tell me what you did, how you did it, who you did it with, what was the outcome, what would you have done differently. That's the story that you want to tell. Stick to the facts. I can't tell you how many times, and I don't think it's anybody in this room, but I can't tell you how many times that as a recruiter, I call a candidate about a job and they just vomit. I get their whole life. And I understand that you all want to talk to somebody, but don't come to church. Go have coffee with your best friend, okay? Go work out with your buddies, and as you're sweating, pumping iron, tell everybody what you want to say. But when you get a recruiter on the phone, and I don't hold it against people because I know that they're in a place that they're not, that it's not comfortable. And I generally, after about 30 minutes, say, let's stop for a minute, take a breath of fresh air. Now let's talk about what I want to talk about instead of what you want to talk about. But I want you just make sure you reflect on that as you go back to your offices, as these phone calls come in, because they may not be coming in as often as they used to. And I want to make sure that when that call comes in, that you get the most out of it that you possibly can, okay? Driving down the highway, coming up here, okay? Does everybody like that cool weather? Huh? It's 73. I put my seat warmers on. I'm from Michigan, though, so I've been here 33 years, and my blood is really thin. So 75 to me is cold. But if I were to get a call coming up the highway, okay, somebody calls me and they want to talk to me about hiring me to help them fill a job, no way. I'm on the tollway, it's stop and go, it's wet, no way. I would not take that call, okay? Even as desperate as I might be, I would not take that call. Instead, I would probably let it go to voicemail, pull over, find a quiet place in the shade if it's sunny out, redial the phone number, listen to the message, and then redial it again, okay? Now you're in a place where you can have your notebook out, you can clearly think, and you're not worried about running into the person in front of you, okay? So often as candidates, we're not desperate, but that call comes in and it doesn't matter where we're at and we want to take it. Well, sometimes it's just not convenient. So just take a deep breath and do the right thing by getting yourself into a quiet place where you can think and you can take some notes.
We have a question?
What is your opinion about phone calls like that, but no messages left? Can you interpret anything from that?
Say that again.
Phone calls like that, but the person does not leave a message. What is that trying to?
They didn't leave a message.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, you got their phone number, okay, in your caller ID. Who knows? They may be calling to try to sell you a new car. So, you don't, if they don't leave you a message, you don't even know if it was a recruiter at that point. They could have been trying to sell you new windows or a roof or something. I don't know. So, but I'd still call back that number when I got, somebody called me from this number. I'd like to, learn more about why you called. Yeah? Yep.
So I guess I can say that one thing that's been a challenge for me since you mentioned that. It's like finding companies that I can trust, especially now hearing about this one lady that recently passed away at her desk. Just like who can. It just feels like there's just less and less companies you can actually that just seem the most trustworthy of them, and that's been so. Point I'm trying to make is like if they can't, like if things like this are happening, it's like how can we really like. How can we find ones that we can actually trust to, like keep people safe and that sort of thing?
Well, I think that the interview process, it's a great question. I think there's a lot more to that, but I think the key to it is that as a candidate, you're interviewing the companies that that are calling you just as much as they're interviewing you. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody. But I call it, and I tell my candidates, because I do a lot of coaching with my candidates, it's a dating game, okay? This is a dating game. We're not getting in the back seat yet, okay? We haven't even gotten in the car. I want to know more about you, and I've got some research to do and so forth. I've got some questions to ask as well. So, it's really important that when you make the selection that you're finding an alignment in a company that you can be successful at, that you feel confident at, that you like the rules and the regulations and you understand what they are that before you go in, okay? I think that's only fair. And there's a lot of tools that you can do that with. LinkedIn is one good tool. There's Glassdoor. There's a bunch of places that you can go. I would definitely be doing my research. There's a question over here, but before you do that, the one thing that I encourage every candidate to do, and this is something that I do a lot of coaching just for free, and maybe that's how I got on Forbes, and I truly do not know, because you talk about God's plan. Really? Me? One? In the country? Are you kidding me? So but in my coaching, one of the things I ask candidates to do is I want you to take an 8 and 11 piece of paper. I want you to divide it into 4s, okay? The top left, what are you good at? On the right, what are you not good at? On the bottom left, what are the things you like to do? And on the right, the things you don't like to do. You can incorporate Personal, I like to cook, but I hate to do the dishes. I was really good at managing people, but I don't like to do it anymore. I don't like it at all, okay? But I want you to go through this exercise because this is going to give you information. This is going to give you stories to tell as you're in the interview process, okay? Nobody's going to ask you that question, and likely you might get the strengths. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And this is the same thing, okay? But most importantly, let me put the explanation point on this, and then we're going to go to your question, is that before you take your next job, that job, I want you to overlay that job offer on top of this spreadsheet that you worked on, okay? Because if you are anything but 80-20, 80% on the left side of the paper, doing the things that you like to do and the things that you're good at, you will be looking for another job in a year, okay? If it's 50-50, you'll be back at it in a year, I can guarantee it. If it's anything less, you may not even make a year, okay? It's just not a good fit. So make sure that you're doing that self-examination as well. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is a little bit more, you're further down the process, let's say first round, second round interview, and this has happened to me, where I'm not feeling well. Like I'm feeling like, I really wish I could cancel this, but I feel like I need to show up. I had an interview, I actually had lost my voice, could barely talk, but I was like, I'm meeting with the hiring manager, I can't cancel this the day of because I'm sick, and so I powered through, but I don't feel like I'm being fully my best self, but then I feel like if I cancel last minute, it's a bad reflection on me. Like, is there any tips on, is there a graceful
What's
way?
making you feel that angst? Is it the company, is it the product, is it the...
I think I've just been very unlucky. I had a situation where I woke up, I didn't feel well. I was like, I gotta go, gotta put my big girl panties on. I went to this interview. The next day, I got tested, thought it was a sore throat. It was COVID. So now I have to, and it was a panel interview with like 6 people in a room. And then I have to send them, in addition to the thank you note, hey, I'm really sorry. I never had COVID, so it's like, I did not get the job. And one of the reasons was they're like, you weren't your full self. Like we could tell your energy was a little bit low, but I was like, I can't cancel.
Well, no, you did the right thing by going to the interview. I would, have they made the hire yet? Have they filled the job? They did, and do you know the person? You don't maybe know them, but do you know the name of the person? What's their background?
So for me, I feel like my story's a little bit, I'm the bridesmaid, never the bride, so I'll make the top 2 or 3. The person that they ended up hiring had more experience than I did in this area, and so they wanted to go with somebody, I think, with that level of experience.
Okay. So it's justified. I mean, it's not a COVID thing. It's definitely justifiable. At least you've been able to justify in your mind. There's probably things that you could have brought to the table that they don't have. And so there's candidates get into this, I say, rut, okay? But get yourself out of it right now, okay? Pledge to me that you're going to leave this room today and you're never going to be the bridesmaid again. You're going to be the bride, okay? It is going to happen. And the thing that happens is, what is your name? Chantel. The thing that happens is Chantel's going to get an offer and she's going to get 2 or 3 offers. And I don't know when, but you're working hard at it and you know yourself. But put this one over here in that basket of COVID stories, and just bury it, okay? But you did meet some great people at that organization, and you liked the company and everything they were doing. So stay in touch with those people as well, okay? One of the things that I coach people on, and we've got time, right? Pete, are we doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Okay. So there's a suggestion that I offer everybody that I coach. Not everybody does it, I'm sure. But the people that do it, it accelerates their search, okay? Because the bottom line is your network is your net worth, okay? Does that make sense? As you're searching for a job, your network, the people that you've worked with, the people that you know, that is your net worth, because you're not working right now. They kind of hold the keys, in some cases, to the potential of you landing a great new opportunity. So, how do we communicate with our network? One of the things we do is we put that green wreath on, okay? So if you're actively looking for a new job, you go into LinkedIn and you put that green wreath on. And that tells everybody in your network that you are actively looking for a new job. Why is that important? Well, it's important for one reason, and that is because Sally is my admin. I'm making it up, okay? I don't have an admin. Sally's my admin. I'm on vacation with my family, and Sally knows that I'm looking for a new director of marketing. And so HR's working on it for us, but they haven't brought us any great candidates yet. And she's such a great admin that while I'm gone, instead of taking 2-hour lunches, she's back at her desk and she's going through LinkedIn and she's looking at different people that she knows. Maybe she could open up this, communicate with some people. And she comes to your background. She would have never probably looked at your background. She worked with you 9 years ago, okay? But she sees that you're actively looking, and it catches her attention, and she reaches out, and now this becomes an active opportunity. So that's one thing that you do. Your network is your net worth. Turn on that. Second thing I want you to do is in LinkedIn, in the summary section, I want you to put your contact information. Yes, your contact information. Your home address? No. Your phone number and your email address, okay? It is a game changer.
Amen.
It is a game changer because as recruiters, we want to talk to candidates. We've got jobs to fill. We want to have conversations. That's what makes my bank account happy is when I talk to candidates and I close jobs, right? So I want to talk to candidates. And the only solution that I've got is to send you an email when I'm using LinkedIn, okay? And guess what? Only 8% of candidates reply to LinkedIn messages. 8%. That's really low, right? Thankfully, mine's like 18%. But think about it. I sit at my computer for a day and I send out 100 notes. I'm only going to get 18 notes back. 18 out of 100, okay? So we got to do more than just what we're doing. When you have your contact information in there and I click on it, you go to the top of my list because I can have a conversation with you immediately, okay? So put your contact information in it. Make it easy for recruiters to get a hold of you. When you get done with this search, you can take that contact information out if you want to, but put it in there for right now. Yes, ma'am. So you've got your picture and your headline, and then you've got the summary. The summary section
like
underneath.
in your profile?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Kirk, can I make a comment
Yeah.
on that? Guys, I'm still recruiting. Kirk's not the only one. And if I need to get in contact with you, there's a lot of other recruiters that I may be competing with that's trying to get in contact with you, and I've got a client. I'm trying to get to you as quickly as possible. I don't want to go home and wait for you to send me an email that I might not get from you guys. I want to get you as quickly as I can. So that's what Kurt's talking about. It's one of the things Kurt's talking about. Keep talking, Kurt.
Yep. No, absolutely. So put your contact information in. It will accelerate. It will help increase your search. The next thing I'm going to share with you is just this idea that I share with candidates that will help, again, accelerate your search. And it's called the prayer letter. We had a wonderful prayer this morning, okay? Everybody agree? Wonderful prayer. So I don't want to be silly about it, but you've gotten the prayer letter before from friends. And it says this: read this prayer 10 times in the next 10 minutes and send it to 10 people or you're going to die and go to hell. Okay? Yeah. So in the job search world, I want you to make a list, literally an Excel spreadsheet of everybody that you've worked with, everybody you worked for, people that you met at conventions, people you met on airplanes, people that you have in your network. Open up the old term, open up your Rolodex, pull out those business cards, and make a list. And on that Excel spreadsheet, I want their names, I want their phone numbers, and their email addresses, okay? That's the first exercise. If you haven't done this yet, that's the first exercise. Go home, start that process. What do you do next? You made this list. Now I want you to literally pick up the phone and call every one of those people. Okay? Hey, Jesse, it's Kurt. I just want you to know I'm actively looking for a new job. I don't expect that you have one for me, but I respect you so much in your network that I wanted you to know that I'm on the bench. And if anything comes your way, you hear about anything, I'd love to know about it. Okay? That's the message if you leave a voicemail, but you hopefully get the person on the phone and you have a conversation. You never send a resume. We only send resumes when people ask for resumes because resumes are conversations, okay? So don't just blanketly send people your resume, okay? Fact is, you will intimidate 95% of your network if you just send resumes and tell people what you do and your job title, okay? Because they don't know what that is. So don't tell people about the job title that you're looking for. Tell them the target companies. They know you. People knew me. They know that I was a salesperson. They didn't always know what I was selling. Sometimes I was in the technology sector and selling stuff that was above their heads, so they didn't know what I was selling. They knew I was a salesperson. But so tell people the target companies that you're looking for, okay? And while you got them on the phone, you know their phone number because they answered their phone, but get their email address. Make sure you've got their right email address because people change email addresses like they change underwear today, right? So get their email address because month 2 comes, and guess what? I don't want you to call all those people again. You can't do that. You just made 400 phone calls, 200 phone calls. I don't care how many it takes. But you need to stay in touch with these people because your network is your net worth. So now you do send the prayer letter. And the prayer letter says this. You take all those names, 200 names, you put them all into a BCC. Remember that, BCC, no CCs, no twos, because everybody likes to reply all, right? So all BCCs. Great people know great people. That's as the subject line says. And then the body, it says, hey, thanks for taking my call last month. I continue to look for new opportunities. Some of the target companies that I'm looking at this month include, and you give them 4 or 5 companies that you're looking at. If you or anybody in your network has contacts with these or companies like these, I would greatly appreciate an introduction. Feel free to forward this note on to anybody in your network. And then most importantly, if there's anything I can do for you or a friend, don't hesitate to call. I'll be back in touch in 30 days. If you're not a salesperson, if you're a finance person or you're somebody that's in IT, this is going to be way past your comfort zone, okay? And I get that. I understand that. But again, we have so many volunteers right here that can help you with that and overcome that anxiety so that you can have the confidence to make those phone calls, to send those emails. It will accelerate. One quick story. There was a gentleman that I met with once. I remember exactly where we sat, Starbucks in Highland Park Village, sat at the window, finance guy, 54 years old. He had worked for a family office down in, Notre Dame went down and beat this team in Texas the other day. What time? College Station?
A&M.
Sorry. He worked for a $1 billion family business in College Station. He was their VP of Finance, CFO. He started working there when he was 15 years old, okay? 55 years old. Next generation comes in. They don't want him anymore. They want somebody young. So they let him go. And he's got the deer in the headlights because he doesn't know anything but one company, one brand. That's all he's ever done. And he's a finance guy. And I have a hard time teaching everybody I can teach anybody how to sell, but finance guys, they're numbers, that's right? You know these people. Some of you might be them, right? But the bottom line is he looked at me and he says, you want me to do what? And I said, I promise it'll work. He called me 3 months later and he said, I got 4 job offers, okay? So I know it works because your network does want to help you, but they don't know how to help you. And why do you send it every month? Because what happens? We forget, okay? And it's okay. You had a call with your old boss. You guys got along really well. You haven't connected in 2 or 3 years. You had a great conversation. But I guarantee you, when you hang up the phone, he's got 100 other things that he's working on, okay? So we got to send emails to continue to remind. When do we stop sending those emails? When somebody sends you a note back and says, please take me off your mailing list. Thank you very much, I will. Okay? Any questions about that whole segment? Because I think it's a real positive tool. Yes, sir.
Do you keep the same title for the email?
Great people know great people. Yeah. And I almost recommend you can write that email I just gave you, and you don't have to make a whole lot of modifications to it because people aren't going to remember. The only changes you're making is you're putting in different companies because every month you're coming up with new companies that you're targeting and you're looking at. Okay? So it can be just about the same email, and nobody will call you out on it. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Peter. You mentioned finding target companies.
Yeah.
That's the weakest part of my search.
Great question then. How do you go find target companies? Let me give you one great tool.
Pete's got a tool.
Pete's got a tool.
Oh, yeah.
One great tool is the Dallas Business Journal. Okay? Are you familiar with that? Okay, so the Dallas Business Journal, now, you don't have to subscribe to it. I think it's about $100. You can write it off on your unemployment. You can take it as a deduction. But the Dallas Business Journal every week prints a newspaper. Okay, I get it every Saturday. Okay, and I get the hard copy because I'm an old guy and I like to rip out articles and put notes on it and send it to people. Then nobody ever calls me or writes back, but that's okay. I still do it. But every week what the Dallas Business Journal does is they publish a list in that newspaper. It could be a list of the 250 fastest growing companies in Dallas, the 250 largest public companies, the 250 private companies. Okay, every week there's a list. Largest commercial real estate companies, the largest recruiting firms, the largest this, the largest that, the largest golf tournaments, there's a list for everything. And it gives you the name of the company, it gives you their address, it gives you the name of the CEO, it gives you their volume and revenue, okay? So, if you're having a hard time coming up with companies, I would go to first to your library. You can't check this book out generally, but you can take some quarters with you and make copies of the pages, or you may say, this is such a valuable resource, I'm just going to subscribe so I can get my own book a list. There is an online version. It might be a little less expensive than the hard copy. I don't know. But that is one tool that I highly recommend that you use that will help create and give you some new names that you hadn't thought of. The other thing it does is not everybody stays in the same industry. So if you're in commercial real estate and you work with John Smith and now he's gone into medical devices, okay, and you haven't been following him, you look at the Dallas Business Journal book a list, and you might see that oh my gosh, I know him. I worked for him over here. I had no idea that he got out of commercial real estate and went into medical devices. So it may create some other conversations that you can have with people that you hadn't thought of in a long time. Okay?
Can I add one more
Yeah.
to that? First of all, the DBJ, you can online, some libraries have it for free.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about that. Secondly, there's a product out there called Reference Solutions, which is a listing of all the North American companies. And we teach you how to use that. If you go to friscoconnect.org in the media tab and look for a presentation that I did with Mike Ray towards the bottom of that media tab at friscoconnect.org, you'll see the whole presentation, how to use Reference Solutions. Again, through your local library. It's a very expensive product. You can't buy it.
Peter, that was worth you coming today, right? Right?
This is where you say yes.
Worth coming today, right?
That's the hardest part.
There's no question it's the hardest part.
Especially,
I got an addendum to that.
you're in someplace like technology, right? You can work anywhere.
Yeah. Almost.
You do have to start with a target company. So if you used to be in technology and you worked for Microsoft, you just put in Microsoft. It's going to give you the government financial code. Then you search on that financial code. Not every company that does the same thing as Microsoft is going to come up. And then you can start whittling that down to where you want to be in Dallas-Fort Worth. You want a large company, you want a small company, but it'll give you a listing of all the companies that are out to do the same thing as your prior company.
And now you know the companies, so you can go out to their website or go to LinkedIn to find out if they're hiring, if they fill positions like the ones who you're looking for. Is this a waste of your time? Or do you know an executive in that organization? So it starts with target companies. You've got to have a list of target companies.
That word. I love it.
Yeah.
Here's what we recruiters like. I'm going to stand next to the top recruiter when I say this. Now, guys, the reason that we recruiters like this is because our companies that we're dealing with like it, and they tell us, "Ooh, this is good." They give us a thumbs up. If you come, let's say you work for a medical device company, and there's a lot of medical device companies around Dallas-Fort Worth that you didn't even know about. They may be smaller ones than the Abbott that you work for or something like that. They may do something similar or very same thing that your talent resides in. You can use reference solutions. Pete will show you how to do it. You can use reference solutions to find these very companies. Go look at those companies and see if they've got opportunities available. Because if you already got experience doing what that company does and you work for the big boy, Kurt's still shaking his head up and down.
No, it's
I
spot
hope
on.
that's making sense.
Does that all make sense?
Here's
for
a
y'all?
question here.
How can you ensure that the positions that you're applying for are actually valid and not fake jobs or ghost postings? Because I found a lot of companies that I'm interested in, but I'll see a position, I'll apply for it, it'll be taken off and it'll be reposted like a week later or 2 weeks later.
Well, in some cases, what they might be doing is anticipating hiring. So they're trying to build a talent pool, okay? So they're trying to gather resumes to see what's out there. I don't know any other reason why a company would do that. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I would never post a position, even if I was working for, why would you post a job unless you were going to fill it? Now, again, we're in crazy times. So I was in a meeting on Friday and I got permission to post this job. And then Monday, everything fell apart in a handbasket. And now my boss called me and said, "No, you can't fill that job. We got to wait until after the third quarter, fourth quarter, blah, 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 blah." So that would be the reason. But I just don't know why they would post a job and pull it back. Really? What kind of jobs? Yeah. Right? And how do you know that they're not intended to fill? You can.
I think I have a little bit more to add to that. If you post a job and all of a sudden I got 300 applicants immediately, we'll take it down because I've already got enough to say grace over. I have to be able to get through those 300.
Good point.
If I don't find my ideal candidate or candidates within that first set that I'm looking at, I'm going to repost it and get some more people to apply and look for it again.
Yeah.
So we always tell people, if you see a job you like, apply for it right away, then check your network to see if we know anybody that can help you get in there. Because if you wait to check your network first, they will take it down because they've got enough already applicants, or at least perceived applicants, to see how many are actually qualified.
So that is actually true, Pete. So what we need to coach you on there is that, to the point that it's 99% chance, 98, 95% chance that is an active job, and you filled it out. Now we got to go pursue that company. So if you think that just filling out applications on LinkedIn and sending those in and putting your resume in it is going to get the attention of the recruiter, you're making a mistake. You've got the information. You know the company that's hiring. You potentially know people that have worked for that company or work for that company now. That's when you activate your network and you put it into high gear and you call every one of those people. "Hey, I just applied for this job. I don't know if you know the hiring manager, but could you give me any suggestions? You've been working there how long? How did you get your job? How many interviews did you go through? Did you go through a recruiter or did you go through an internal recruiter? You get hired by the hiring manager. You got 100 questions you can ask somebody that you can get them if you can get them on the phone live, right? So don't just assume that you filled out that application. And I submitted 25 applications last week and I didn't get any calls back. Well, you submitted 25 applications. You've got 25 hours of work to do behind that to go do all the research on every application you filled out and who was in that company that you could get an introduction to. that make sense? Finding a job is the hardest job you'll ever have. Did you know that? And it sucks. And I don't like that word, but it's not any fun because you get rejected every day. You come home and your wife says, "What did you do all day, honey?" "Well, I got 4 more rejection letters." What's wrong with you? Okay? Accountability groups. If you don't have an accountability group that you're in today, I would highly recommend you put it on your list of things to do. What is an accountability group? I like accountability groups. You can go both ways, but I like accountability groups where they're typically men or women in it, and it's not a mixture. And the reason is because there's things that we want to talk about, okay? And it's just sometimes it's better to talk to another man and a woman to talk to a woman, and it's not whining then. Is that fair? Okay? So that's the first thing I'll say is I like accountability groups that in that fashion, but not mandatory. I want you to find other people that do what you do that are looking for a job. And you might be thinking, well, why do I want to sit with Farron? Farron and Kurt and Mark, we all are looking for the same job in Dallas. Why would we want to sit around and talk every week and share leads and all that? Because, darn it, I got to get a job before Mark does. Right? Okay? Well, guess what? That's not the truth. Number one, accountability groups, you are going to have the chance to talk about what happened last week. It's the worst week of my search. I didn't get any callbacks. I didn't get this. My wife doesn't understand. I drank more than I should have been drinking. I'm watching stuff on TV that I shouldn't be watching. I'm doing stuff. It's okay. Come back to center. Give this accountability group your angst. Share what's going on in your life. But share jobs too. Because if there's a job in Dallas and it's a job that Mark and I are both going for, guess what? One of us want to get that job because we don't want somebody from California coming in. Okay? It would be great if Mark or I got the job, because if Mark got the job, he's got 20 projects leads that he's been working on that he's going to give to me. And he's going to call every one of those companies and say, guess what? I just accepted another job, sorry. But I've got a job. I've got a candidate that you should really talk to because he may be your candidate. And I know him really well, and he's qualified to do the work, okay? So accountability groups are a great place to go meet, vent, have conversations. Because if you're not feeling the angst and you're not feeling anxious every day that you wake up as you go through a job search, then you may be supernatural, right? It's normal. It's okay. It's okay. But that's why you're here today, to talk about it and to learn. Okay, so I don't want to say you've taken the first step because it's not a 10-step approach, but you've taken the first step by coming here today to learn, to listen, to meet friends. We're going to take a break in 10 minutes, and it's going to be a chance for you to mingle with other people and learn about what they're doing. And maybe here you can form an accountability group, or you can find a couple other people that you know that don't come to this meeting that you'd like to invite in, okay? Really important. Questions?
Same field you want accountability group?
What's that?
Is the same field that people have to be
yes.
banking, or
I like
IT or something like that, or what?
It could be medical device, and somebody's in marketing, somebody's in sales, somebody's in IT. It could be that, or it could be you're all in sales in medical device, or it could be you're all in sales. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you can, there's no boundaries, okay? But the key is that you're getting together with other people to talk every week. What leads did you get? Where'd you get it from? I mean, Peter should be in one immediately because he's going to need help finding these companies. And there may be somebody in that accountability group that says, hey, bring your computer next week and we'll take an hour and I'll help you refine your search, okay? That's the kind of friends that we're looking for in this search world, right? Questions? Yeah.
Hi, Kirk. My name is Laura Barrett. I'm sure that you speak with a ton of candidates, and I would really appreciate your perspective. Candidates that just knock your socks off, what are the few attributes that you see them having or doing differently?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question. So, yeah, I do talk to a lot of candidates. And I want to almost say that I hate to, it's almost predictable for me. I just finished a search for a company here in Dallas it's an individual owner. He owns billions of dollars, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate around the country, and he was looking for an asset property manager. And he had 2 other gentlemen in this role previously, and they both failed. But they failed because what he wanted before was he didn't want to pay any more than $80,000, okay? But he wanted experience, okay? And you just can't get experience when you're paying that kind of money. You can get somebody that's out of college, maybe has a couple of years of experience. So it was the first person I talked to, Carrie. She got the offer. It was a female, and I just instinctively thought, you know what? This guy is just going to work better with a female in that role, okay? He's 75 years old. He's been very successful in life. I just think he's going to work better with a female than a male. But then I asked her the one question was, in the work that you've done, can you talk to me about roofs and parking lots? And she right into it. I have no fear of getting on a ladder. If you're going to be an asset property manager, you got to look at the roof, because flat roofs or buildings are built on. She went, blah, blah, blah. Parking lots are a big problem. And every one of those properties he's got big parking lot, and they can be expensive. And if you're not a really good property manager and you don't know how to read the lease, then the tenants are going to throw expenses at you all day long. So within 4 or 5 minutes, it was like, dang it, this is exactly what he was looking for. She just read me the job. It's listening to the recruiter and then responding to what we've got questions about. Some candidates just don't want to, they want to talk in circles. I had a conversation with a candidate the other day, and he said, he's in the wood business, and not lumber, but they build doors, and that can be a big field. But he said he and his wife, he quit because he and his wife were going to have a baby. He's 50 years old, and it was their first baby. So he quit because he wanted to spend time with his wife and the new baby. I understand that. 9 months later, he wants to get back in the job, okay? So he calls me, and so one of the questions I asked him is, what's your target salary? What's your sweet spot? And he said, $590,000. And I said, wow. I said, is that all salary? Is that bonus? Is that, what is that combined of? And he goes, $590,000. I said, he says, and everybody I talk to, conversation kind of ends when I give him that number. And I said, well, I can imagine it, wouldn't it? It's a big number. I said, there are companies that do pay that, but I said, that's a big number. I said, and I had to drill down for about 5 minutes with this guy. And finally, he told me, well, my base was only 180. Well, dude, that's what you're selling is 180, okay? You just happen to work for a company that you rocked it for 5 years and you had momentum. You should have never left that job, because you're never going to make $590,000 again on a $180,000 salary, okay? Sales guys do get big bonuses. I get that. But he was crushing it, okay? So, again, I just want everybody in the room, when you talk to recruiters, just take a deep breath. Take a step back, okay? We put on our pants just like you all do, and listen. Just listen. Because, like I told you before, so many candidates just dump. They just give me all about their life and everything that's ever gone on. And there's going to be time that I'll get to know you a lot better and get to know all that stuff, but I don't need to know it on this first phone call. Fair enough? Salary question, right? We just talked about it. Nobody likes to answer it. Everybody hates it. I ask it right up front. I've got a recruiter friend of mine. She'll spend an hour and a half with you, and she asks it at the end, okay? I think it's a waste of your time, okay? So don't get your number, have your number, and feel comfortable with that number, okay? It is what it is, okay? And if this company doesn't want to pay you that amount of money, there'll be another company that will, but get your number and stick to it. Because, once I learn you're actively, why are you looking? what's going on in your career right now? I ask that question up front. And then right off the bat, can you give me an idea what your target salary is? And it is only because I'm working for a company and they've given me a budget, okay? And I can't go back and present 4 candidates that are making $250,000 if they've only given me a base salary budget of $150,000. But I think a good recruiter, I always do present candidates that are a little above the salary grade, okay? Not because I'm trying to raise the bar for me. You might say, well, Kurt, that's logical. You get paid more money because you get a base percentage. I don't do it for that reason. I only do it when I know there's a skill set that's that much different. This is what we're seeing in the market today for $125,000. But if you have a budget and you're willing to pay $150,000 or $160,000, here's a couple of candidates that would rock it, okay? So not every recruiter does that, okay? But right? I'm not being silly about that, right? I don't know as a candidate how you get a recruiter to present you if you're above the salary grade, but don't be afraid to tell them your number.
Thank you. How do HR people respond to the standard response from me commensurate with my experience?
Right.
Capability.
Yep.
I mean, should that answer still be given?
No. And the reason is
No, I know, but
and the reason is because, okay, great. Oh, I'm so happy. Let's continue this conversation. Da 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 da. Bring you in for an dinner. Da 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 da. We got a job offer you, $60,000. What are you talking about? I can't do this work for $60,000. Well, you got yourself in that role, okay? Because you said you'd work for whatever was right. So put your number out there and stick to it, okay? If it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And it's not going to be a fit. You're not going to force a company to pay you more just because you've got a good resume, you've got great experience. So just give them the number. If they're afraid of that number, then don't be afraid of them. Let them go. They'll be okay. They may come back after they've seen the market, okay? Because that's what happens a lot of times. I get a job, company will say, what does this job pay? In a company I'm talking to in Atlanta, they're looking for somebody that's they do recollection for apartment buildings. It's a $15, $18 million business, so it's a big business. But the point is that they asked me, what does that pay? And I said, I don't really know. I think that based on the experience and the problems that you want this person to solve, it's going to be 150 to 175. And one of the partners said, that's about exactly what we thought too. I said, now when we get going on the search, then I'll get you live data. Okay, because I can go salary.com and get all kinds of made up data. And it's not made up, it's based on surveys and everything. But until I start talking to candidates in Atlanta to know what the mark is there, then I'll give you a better number. Okay?
Hi, Kurt.
Yeah.
My name is Charlotte Arnold. I'm a senior level sales executive in healthcare and higher education. Will you talk a little bit about those of us that have non-traditional titles and job titles and how to overcome that and how to document it on a LinkedIn and a resume?
Great question. Job titles. So, and I think it was one of the last times I was out here that I got a lesson myself on this particular subject. So job titles are really, really important. So when you're filling out an application and you're sending an application in, your job titles better match the job titles that are in that application or that posting, okay? And why is that? And what do? You alter your resume, okay, to match it up. Now, are you lying? Well, you're lying if you say that you got a master's degree from Notre Dame and you never went to Notre Dame. That's lying. You can lie. You're never lying when you. This really fine step here. Everybody's going, what is he going to say? Because I don't want anybody to lie. But on the application, when you take a posting and you make those changes, the only time if they come back and they have you fill out a full application then you've got to put the titles of what you had, okay? But if I'm a junior recruiter, and this happens we talked about this last time. If I'm a junior recruiter and I'm looking for a customer service retention advocate, okay? And you are a retention manager, but you've never had the retention piece of it, that junior recruiter is going to say, she's never done that job. She's really not qualified for this, when you've probably done it in your sleep for 5 years, okay? So in order to make sure that we open up as many doors as we can, when you're filling out applications online, make sure your titles match up to the titles that they're looking for, okay? That is really, really important. Companies have come up with crazy titles these days, and the reason that they're doing it is because it does, they're able to work outside the lines a little bit in giving creative and fun titles for people, but in so many times it doesn't translate back. I have to do the same thing when I'm doing searches, because if I'm looking for somebody that is, it's got a refined, I'm looking for a refined job, I've got to open up the door and look at titles that are completely different than I might normally look at to see if I can find the candidates that meet the requirements. Has that been fuzzy or fuzzy? And I know we got to go on break here.
Yeah, here's what we want to do. I'm glad you said that. and we'll be right back. Guys, I want you guys to take a break. Some of you guys look like you might need to go out those doors or out these doors over here. Just saying. Now, in about 30 minutes, we're going to be back. And Kirk's going to be here to ask questions. I'm going to bring up scenarios and stuff. And I want you guys to hold on to those questions that you have, because that's a designated time to get that done. How we connect. 3 words. I like doing better than just connecting. Once you find somewhere to connect, you can springboard off of that as you're moving towards relationship. Guys, the last 3 jobs that I had, I didn't feel as though I was a fit for that job. But they did, and it kind of surprised me. But I did a wonderful job, made them look good for hiring me when I got in there. Do you guys remember GTE? Before we became Verizon, that is what they hired me for, and they put me over North, Central, and South America. Now, they felt okay with that because my mom's family is from Mexico, so I had that part of my culture that I could connect and build a relationship with many recruiters that I had in South America and a few in Central America. So, I am a pastor's son. I'm sure that's got something to do with why I dig into this relationship thing in the way that I do. Everybody doesn't dig in. We're all trying to connect with everybody and get over 500 on LinkedIn. And if you got 500 people on LinkedIn, do you know them? Can you tell me something about Frank Fantazzo? Did I say it right, Frank? Fantazzo. You say it. Fantuzzo. See, I'm not going to mess up no more. I'm going to get it now. I've been friends with Frank for a little while now. Now, I had a conversation with Frank a while ago, and he told me the exact dimensions of what it is he does. Now, when I think of helping Frank and who to connect him with, I know a little bit more about Frank and how to connect him a little bit more accurately. Now, this dude and I, when those companies reach out to us to find a person for them, that's what they're looking for, that accuracy. Sometimes they don't even know where they need to be. But because we have talked to a lot of people, we might be able to help. So I just wanted to get you guys going on your thinking caps going. William, I can feel you thinking up here right now. Okay, who was that had a question before we went to break? Okay. Okay, yeah.
I want to make sure that I come up in some of your searches that you do, Kurt, or people like you. So I want to have a standard title that's indicative of the job I do that comes up in the LinkedIn drop-down box.
Right.
So does that mean that I have the title that I had at the job, and then in parentheses, I do a standard title of what that job was? Does that make sense?
It does. But I think, this whole title thing is so hard to navigate around because it's, I don't know that your goal of being found because of that. I think it's other stuff in your LinkedIn profile that you want me to find you for, okay? I think, I don't be so hung up on the title. But I also understand your nervousness on that you don't want to be left out of anything either. There was a young man that was here, John talked to, that came out of, he was a executive director, but in any other company that's a VP. He was with Morgan Stanley, I think. Is he here still? No. Yeah. So you've got a title situation that you're dealing with as well. I mean, they've given him a very unique title, but how does that translate back into my world, into corporate America? And that if there's an opportunity that I don't put him in front of, or I'm not calling him for something that's too junior, he's a VP. Anything less than that, I mean, you'd laugh at his resume saying, you're going for a director job. That you did that 10 years ago. So I don't know if I'm helping or making it more confusing for you. Yes. And you could see when I do that exercise of how as LinkedIn, it really limits us as far as the ability for titles, because we can put any title we want in, but the nomenclature that they follow isn't what candidates always use. So we have to really look outside the box. Yeah.
Sometimes as you guys see a title and the explanation of what they're looking for in that title is what you did, but you got a different title, you might want to put their nomenclature, that's a big word, man. What they call it, into parentheses, so they will understand this job that you guys have is exactly where I've been. And just a thought. That's not the rule, but
and where it came up, Foster, was last time when we had that panel, and there were some younger recruiters on the panel.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're dealing with young internal recruiters, and it's not a bad thing. They don't know the difference all the time, because they haven't lived all that experience, to know that title is exactly the same. But that's what AT&T gave their employees for their title, and it doesn't match to the title of this particular company. So you've got to play games with those titles to make sure that, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, it's me again. So my question comes down to matching skill sets that you see on a job posting in LinkedIn. I will see maybe 6 or 7 that match up with my resume, and then there might be some that I'm doing training for. But is there like a set number that we're kind of like fighting against if we're saying we have like 6 of the 10 skills or 7 of the 10 skills that we should maybe really focus on applying for those? Or
So you're talking about the skills on your resume?
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about? Yes. So you've got bullets about what you've done? Well, the first thing I think, the biggest mistake that candidates make, Foster, is that the bullets are they use the resume as a job description. Mm-hmm. And the bullets don't describe what they did, they describe what they do. So an example of that would be if you were an admin, your resume might read that you were in charge of filing, okay? Travel planning, business meeting planning, whatever, okay? So, but that same admin just implemented a new filing process that is saving the company $100,000 for printing, okay? So what she's not in charge of filing. She's in charge of. I developed a process to eliminate printing, filing for our whole company. So my point is that make sure you read your bullets to make sure that they've got numbers, percentages, increases, what you did, what you accomplished, not what you did. Does that make sense? Your accomplishments. And then I would, in your last job, I'd probably have 4, 5, 6 of those bullets. And for every one after that, you have fewer. So your next job, you might have 4 bullets. If I put all my jobs on my resume and I went back to my first days at Pepsi-Cola, I might just have my job title and not even what I did, because what I did with Pepsi 40 years ago is totally irrelevant to what I'm doing today. Does that make sense?
He said 40.
What about the skills sections? Like in LinkedIn, they'll say you need like so-and-so skills, and then like there's a skills section on my resume, not like the bullets of what I did, but like what I know or what I'm capable of.
So you're filling out a job application on LinkedIn, and it's asking you about skills. And you're asking, the question is, are those same skills on your resume?
Yeah, so like there'll be maybe 10 skills for a specific job posting, and it will say on that job posting that my skills are like a match on 6 of them or 7 of them.
Okay.
So like at what point is there like a certain number that it's recommended for us to apply?
See, I don't
to?
use any of that in LinkedIn, so I don't, yeah, you're above my pay grade on that one. I'll have to look into that. That's, but, you know, I feel like those, tell me what you do. What is your role? What kind of job are you looking for? What is it?
Is it product manager?
Product manager, yeah. Go ahead.
In LinkedIn, you can have up to 100 skills.
Say that again?
100 is the limit for skills.
Oh.
Should be.
That's a lot of skills.
That's a lot of skills.
Add 100 or whatever you're going to add. Make sure you
wanna
reposition them to the top one.
Right.
Guys, remember relevance. Whatever we're sharing, we want to make sure it's relevant what they're looking for. Now, if they got a long list of things, we know that that whole long list is not as relevant towards that particular opportunity that it should be. Foster, you're asking me to understand what it is that title does at that company. I sure am, according to what they're asking for. Yes, sir.
So I left my job last November.
The one in California?
Yeah. In preparation of moving back to Texas, and for one. Number 2, taking care of a family member. Just got here in August, came back, and trying to figure out what's the best way to position that gap on a resume, on LinkedIn. I've done some consulting work in between. And, you know, kind of presenting it that I was a principal of a consulting company. But I'm not sure if that's working for me or against me. I'm not getting as many contacts as I had expected. I have a feeling maybe that having that consulting company as management consulting is not working for me. Maybe someone mentioned that, hey, they might thinking that you're working a second job, and you'll always work a second job in addition to a corporate job looking for. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, first and foremost, you know, when it comes to a year and over, you know, you've got to give us some information. So I think the most logical for you would be to put contract work in there, and you don't have to give away a lot of information. It can be pretty vague if you've done it. Okay, this is one of those areas where I wouldn't make it up. If you did one contract job and it lasted for 3 days and it was a year ago. You're pushing the envelope on that, but I don't think there's, excuse me, I don't think there's anything wrong with being honest about the fact that you were relocating your family and the other things that go along with it. It's not going to throw you out of opportunities, but the most important thing in addition to all of that is to make sure that keeping all your soft skills up to speed, and your any other not classes, but to keep your saw really sharp is really important. I think that's the hardest thing that candidates have, is getting back in the game. They pull themselves out for a while and they think that they'll land right away. I gave you the example of the guy that was making $590,000, and then they find it a lot more difficult. So I think that's your biggest challenge. But you made it to the best place you could be. I mean, there's more jobs in Texas than there are in California right now.
Much more. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Sonia Irby. My
Yes, you
background
are.
is sales, and I'm looking for a position in hospitality, either as a representative for a venue, a destination, or a chain of hotels. And so as time has gone on in the search, I sometimes see myself entertain conversations with recruiters where I know that I'm overqualified, and I would think they probably know it as well. So just looking for some advice on how do you make the connection, but maybe politely say, that's not the role for me, but I'd love to stay in touch, or whatever you recommend.
Well, I think anytime you can pay it forward, certainly, because you've got a lot of contacts in that category. So you can become a recruiter for some of these recruiters that are looking to fill jobs that you're not necessarily, you're overqualified for. But I would also make sure you keep the blinders off. As we become older in our searches, we have an opinion of what we want and what we need and what's right and what's wrong. And many times after we learn what's going on, there could be a golden opportunity there. So make sure you're not throwing away the baby before too early in some of those opportunities. But any of those opportunities that are hiring, that should be a positive signal that it may not be the right role, but if they're hiring, there may be another role that they may be hiring for later on that is a better fit for what your experience is. But that is a very unique field, and we're past COVID, obviously, so companies are traveling, they're entertaining, they're taking people on trips again, their conventions are back, so it's a robust market. I would just try to find, in Foster's category, as many influencers in that space. My network is your network, is your net worth. I would pound everybody that you've worked for, because you don't know where they've gone and who they might know, because that is a tight-knit community, and one that you're going to have to penetrate. But gosh, if you want to stay in Dallas, there's a lot of that stuff going on here.
Sonia, get involved with those people. You might look at me funny when I tell you this. You do it anyway. But go to meetup.com and put in hospitality. You might want to put in hospitality services, whatever. See what's there. Go and spend time with those people that are in that community. Let them get to know Sonia, and you can share with them what you have done. Now, this takes time, but as a talent acquisition person, I did it to find people for NASA when I was doing a project for NASA, believe it or not. Well, if you go hang out with the people that do it, build those relationships, buy them coffee, buy them barbecue. Let them get to know you. And when it comes to the fact that if you find a job that they're going to say you're overqualified for, that's all right. But at least have somebody that can endorse you and say, hey, I know it may look like she's got this level of experience over here, but she is interested in that opportunity, because when you have been recruiting as long as Kurt and I have, there's certain opportunities and things out there that we will do that people go, oh no, Foster and Kurt been doing it too long and they're way up here. We're the ones that determine what we will do and what we will not do. If we can build a relationship with someone that can understand us enough to endorse us for a certain thing, then we might have something.
I would also keep your eyes open for some of the large law firms, as an example. But I was in the beverage industry for a long time, and we used to have somebody in the organization that did all that work for us. So you came out of more likely the hotel side of it, but keep your eyes open on again, the law firms and some of these other organizations that hire that role because there's some really good jobs outside of just the hotel space that pay probably even better. Yeah.
All right, we're cooking with grease. Any other questions you guys got? Julian, it doesn't surprise me that you got a question, man.
Sure is.
Just want to repeat that for everybody. Meetup,
Yeah, repeat that.
Meetup groups can also help you find an accountability group, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys something else. This is a Fosterism, and I'm coming to you, Muto. Guys, when you network, especially what we're doing right now, there is somebody that you will meet. Jesse Esquivel's one of them. That you kind of got a feeling that I think I want to know Jesse a little bit more. There's a reason why that's happening, guys. Do it. Give it a chance to work. Buy Jesse some barbecue. He might actually eat it. But build those relationships where you can. I'm constantly doing that. Even now, Foster's so busy. Yeah, I am. But I got time to build a relationship with you guys. Yes, sir.
Oh, hello. My name's Andy Hersler. I'm coming off working in the telecommunications industry as a project manager, and prior to that,
my world too. Yeah.
Yeah, Verizon. I was an engineer, and I really liked what I was doing prior. But I'm also very open because I've worked in that space for a long time. To kind of, being a technical project manager in another industry. So I'm just wondering, I guess I'm just, looking at opportunities and things like that, but it's most of, my last 10 plus years of experience is all in telecommunications. So I don't know how to, get people to be interested, in my skill set for some other, great company that's just looking for a really good project manager outside of telecommunications.
Well, so what you're really talking about is building a bridge between where you're at today or where you were and where you want to go. And so that brings up a really good questions, and I think that the focus area has got to be back to what do you like to do and what are you good at? Because you're an engineer, you bring a mindset to the table to project management that a lot of other project managers don't have. Because you can engage in conversations with cross-functional groups that is very unique, and you can probably carry your own in that space. But where you're not feeling comfortable is that you've been in telecommunications, so how do you take that project management skill to UT Southwestern, okay? You gotta focus on your accomplishments, and you gotta focus on your key strengths, okay? And matching them up without looking at the industry and being industry agnostic. Now, all of that said, it's a lot easier to say it than it is to do it, okay? It's all got to come through conversation. You're going to probably get kicked out of a lot of ATSs because of different things that you've done or not done. But when you get into a conversation with that same hiring manager, they'll find a lot more similarities than dissimilarities. But it's going to be a lot more difficult than if you just stay in that telecommunications space. But what company did you come out of? What was it?
Windstream.
Windstream, okay. So, identifying companies that are like Windstream and what they do is going to be the low-hanging fruit for you. But you couldn't be in a better market for telecommunications here in Dallas. I mean, I'm not, AT&T's here obviously, but the thing that candidates forget about, Foster, is that, when I make that statement that there's a lot of industry in Dallas around that, and from a hospitality, Sonia, you ought to be thinking about it as well, is that you could be a very valuable employee, not only to a telecommunications provider, but there are a lot of companies that are selling to those communication providers. They've got products and services that they're selling, and they would love to have you on their team because you can help bring clarity, closure to certain issues and things. So again, keep the blinders off, but that's where I would definitely reach out to for you and Sonia as well, because there's a lot of people that are selling into the hospitality industry that would like to have you on their team. And low-hanging fruit, American Airlines, some of those big companies that are selling to hospitality firms and so forth, maybe outside of maybe fruit that you haven't looked at yet. The biggest thing is going to be those conversations, getting in front of those people and talking about what you did, and not sending a resume until you know exactly what they're looking for, so that you can, not write a great cover letter, but make sure that your resume reflects exactly what they're looking to do. But there probably are other people in the room that are trying to do the same thing, and it's building the bridge between where you were at and where you want to go. And as we get older, we have blinders on because we know everything. And so you've got to do both. Take the blinders off, forget everything you've learned, and then go out and try to find some similar industries where you can apply those skills.
Oh, that's great. Vipin, I want you, if you haven't already, to make sure and connect with this guy. Vipin is right back there. Yep. And you guys may have already talked, but he has an international talent acquisition background.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you got a question, do you? Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, John, are we up to time now?
Yeah, we're about ready. We're about at our time limit.
Okay.